Welcome to Fort Hill Integrated Primary School in the city of Lisburn. Mr. Anderson here to wish you all a happy St. Patrick's Day 2021. Our P6 pupils have been researching about the great Patrick himself. Patrick was tough, and for many years he sacrificed so much as he went throughout this once forested pre-Christian isle, having learnt the ancient Irish tongue, crossing the territories of many different tribal kingdoms with many dangers, sharing the good news about Jesus Christ. Here's a little flavour of our celebration of St. Patrick's Day at Fort Hill. Enjoy.
Wow, what's this?
It's a flag, or as they say in Northern Ireland, it's a flag.
We're very fond of our flag in Northern Ireland. I know that, duh. But what sort of flag is it?
Well, you know St. Andrew Salter, the Scottish flag?
Yeah?
Well, this is St. Patrick Salter, or the St. Patrick's Cross, as many people say it.
It was first used in Ireland in the late 1500s by the Earl of Kildare.
Trinity College, Dublin, Ireland's oldest university, has used the Psalter in its emblem since the 17th century.
Many universities in Ireland have the St. Patrick's Psalter in their coat of arms, including Queen's University Belfast.
The National University of Ireland and the College of St. Patrick in Maynooth,
And the Royal College for Surgeons in Ireland.
I'm feeling tired.
PSNI and the Irish Guards also have the St. Patrick's Cross in their badges. The Grand Orange Lodge of Ireland have St. Patrick's Cross on their banner too. Many towns and cities around Ireland also have Patrick's Cross in their coat of arms, including Belfast and Cork. Westport because St. Patrick visited Croagh Patrick nearby.
and Coleraine because St. Patrick named the town Coleraine in 450 AD.
County Kildare and County Fermanagh also have St. Patrick's Psalter in their coat of arms. St. Patrick's Cross is also set into a mosaic in the entrance hall of St. Patrick's Church in Lisburn. St. Patrick's Psalter was added to the Union flag in 1801 along with St. Andrew's Psalter and St. George's Cross. St. Patrick's Psalter or cross is used all around the world on churches, cathedrals and colleges named after St. Patrick.
Let's find out more about St. Patrick, the patron saint of all Ireland.
Boys and girls, let me tell you a little bit about St. Patrick. The Romans ruled the known world back then for hundreds of years, including Britain. They built roads, towns, and trade from across the empire helped people prosper and get richer. Now, Patrick was a Celt from Britain, and he and his village benefited from the Roman prosperity, and Christianity had become strong in Britain. Now, Patrick tells us in his writings that his dad was a church leader over in Britain. So he came from quite a well-to-do family, and he spoke the native British Celtic language. And he also spoke and read Latin. That was the language of the Romans. But then something happened. In the year 405 AD, the River Rhine near to what is Germany today, froze over, allowing the Germanic hordes, as they call them, those people Rome hadn't conquered, and they crossed over the frozen Rhine in their thousands and thousands. And Rome had to withdraw their troops from Britain and other areas of the empire to protect Rome itself. And it left Britain open to attack. Well, Patrick writes that Irish raiders sailed over and captured him, and he said about 1,000 others. That's a lot. It wasn't just Patrick and his mates. He and 1,000 others, and brought them back to Ireland, this land that the Romans called Hibernia, which means land of winter. Now, Ireland at that time was non-Christian, and it was right at the edge of the Roman Empire at that time. It was a land of dark forests, coasts, mountains, valleys, with wolves, and with large elk, and was made up of about 180 small tribes and kingdoms all over the island. And they fought with each other, and they had allegiances with each other as well. And they spoke a different Celtic language to Patrick, and worshipped many gods like the sun god Lau and other goddesses. They worshipped spirits of trees, they worshipped wells and rivers. And Patrick tells us that they had customs and practices that he thought were just terrible. In charge of all these practices were the Druids, and they were like the pagan religious leaders in Ireland. And it was to this strange and to this dangerous land that Patrick decided to go. And he tells us again in his writings that the one and the only true God told him and beckoned him to go back over to Ireland and preach to the Irish the gospel and the Christian message. Now, the Druids would not they wouldn't have been happy, and the local chieftains and kings would have been suspicious of strangers in their lands. I wonder if there's anything in our lives that we would be prepared to leave our family that we love, to leave our home comforts, to leave our customs, and learn and speak a new language in order to help others. And we wouldn't get anything in return for it except danger and hardship. I wonder if we would do that. Would I do that? Patrick must have been one tough and brave dude.
Now, we're not 100% sure where he came from. Some people think he came from Scotland. Some people think he came from Wales. Some people think he came from somewhere in England. But we do know he came from somewhere on this west coast. And then raiders from Ireland went over and brought him here. And he had to learn Irish because he wouldn't have spoken Irish. But here's the thing that's interesting. It mightn't have been as hard for him as we think it might. So when I come in and I say, do you imagine why? Good morning, Diarmuid Tashiv, how are you? And well, Shiv, good morning, it's okay. Tala brand new, it's a lovely day. And most of you didn't understand me. He might have been able to understand because he spoke a Brittonic language probably. He spoke a Celtic language because at one time, all over the British Isles, everybody spoke a Celtic language. And all the Celtic languages are connected. And this is the Celtic languages today, and this is where they're still spoken. And this is them in their own languages. So there's Scots Gaelic, there's Irish, there's Manx, which is spoken in the Isle of Man, there's Welsh, and there's Cornish.
Good morning and welcome to a special edition of Mastermind. I am Mayan and I'll be your host for today. In the spotlight is Fort Hill P6, and the special subject for today is St. Patrick. The first in the chair is Reese. What was Patrick's birth name and where was he born?
His name was Maewyn Sucat, born in Roman Britain along the coast, possibly Scotland or maybe Wales.
Yes, I think we can actually accept that answer because there's a bit of confusion into where St. Patrick was actually born. And next up is Elijah. Once captured and brought to Ireland, name the mountain Patrick was taken to as a slave, and what was his job?
Mount Slemish, and was he a shepherd?
Correct. And for an extra point, can you tell me how long he stayed on the mountain?
About 6 years.
Correct.
Patrick prayed to God every night and asked God to help him return to his family. One night, God spoke to him in a dream and told him to travel to the sea where a boat would be waiting. Patrick made his journey by foot, which lasted several days, and sure enough, the boat was waiting for him and he headed home. Once reunited with his family, Patrick made a promise to God that he would learn the strange language and return to the island of his enslavement to teach them all about Christianity. Patrick kept his promise to God and learnt all he could about his faith as well as the Irish language. One night, many years later, he had a dream, and in it, Patrick heard the Irish voices calling him back. He again journeyed across the Irish Sea.
And our next contestant is Tamisa. When and where did Patrick found his first church?
In Saul, County Down, in 432 AD.
Correct.
Patrick travelled the length and breadth of Ireland, spreading the Christian message, founding churches as he went in each village. Many towns and villages have churches named after Patrick, which often indicated that he had travelled through that area in his journey of conversion around Ireland. Patrick called Armagh his sweet hill and founded a church there in 445 AD. He decided it was the perfect Christian capital as it had originally been where the Celts from around Ireland travelled there for pagan worship. Today there are two St. Patrick cathedrals in Armagh, one Protestant and one Catholic, one faith, two denominations.
Both Protestant and Catholic organisations celebrate St. Patrick for bringing Christianity to Ireland.
Next up is Harry. Name the mountain Patrick travelled to in County Mayo and tell us what he did there.
Croagh Patrick, he fasted there for 40 days in 441 AD.
Correct.
Incidentally, legend has it that was when he drove all the snakes out of Ireland.
Have you heard an old Irish joke? How did St. Patrick drive all the snakes out of Ireland? Here, let me tell you. You're right in the back there, boys!
Hi, I'm Sophia Parker, reporting from Croagh Patrick, the holiest mountain in Ireland. I can confirm that Patrick went up the mountain and didn't return for 40 days. Reliable sources tell me he was, I quote, fasting and praying.
Patrick also visited Lough Derg in his travels, where he spent time meditating about God's plans for him. The Rock of Cashel in Tipperary is where Patrick is said to have converted the King of Munster.
Welcome, Damien. What did St. Patrick use to explain the Trinity of God's love and how?
He picked up a shamrock off the ground and used the leaves of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
The shamrock became a symbol associated with Ireland and especially on St. Patrick's Day. Queen Victoria in 1900 decreed that the shamrock should be worn every St. Patrick's Day by regiments in the memory of the brave Irish soldiers who lost their lives in war in Africa. In 1903, the Shamrock League was established by the Countess of Limerick to sell shamrock, and the profits were given to families of the lost Irish soldiers. The tradition of wearing shamrock on 17th of March continues today across the world.
Our final contestant is Kira. Why? Sorry, I started so I'll finish. Why do we celebrate St. Patrick's Day on 17th of March?
St. Patrick died on the 17th of March 461 AD in Saul, County Down. He is buried nearby in the grounds of Down Cathedral, Downpatrick.
An angel told Patrick to return to Saul in a dream near the end of his life, and he died there soon after. The surrounding countryside was lit by hundreds of bonfires to mark his passing. Patrick was proclaimed a saint in the 12th century. Another Limerick person, James O'Mara, who was an Irish MP, submitted a bill to Westminster. Parliament decreed St. Patrick's Day a national holiday in Ireland in 1903.
St. Patrick's Day is the most celebrated feast days of any saint around the world. Rivers are dyed green in Chicago and Dublin. There are parades in Dublin, Singapore and Montreal, Mumbai, across Australia and America, etc. Shamrocks, leprechauns and green drinks are plentiful as cities are decorated in 40 shades of green and everyone celebrates their Irish connections.
Congratulations, P6. You have successfully answered every one of my questions. I can now crown you as St. Patrick's Mastermind Champion of 2021.
I'm a little leprechaun dressed in green, the tiniest man that you have seen. If you ever catch me, so it's told, I'll give you my big pot of gold.
We hope you get to walk in St. Patrick's footsteps and visit some of the places he travelled to on his journey around Ireland.
You never knew, you might see a leprechaun or two.